talking about the great reset. Using that word great. I love that because right now everything is great. Not always good, great, but it's great. That's
right.
For sure.
That's right. We went from unprecedented to great to unprecedented to great. There you go, right?
Well, at least it's not employment gate, or something like that. We went from gate to great. So I think we add a little bit to it. But let me talk about employee churn, because our companies underestimated the cost of talent acquisition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want more than that? But okay.
Yeah,
so,
I do. I mean, and why are they?
Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's break the numbers down. Talent acquisition as an industry, and if you look at talent acquisition being like candidate identification, recruiting, outsourced recruiting services, that industry alone is about $76 billion. So this is a huge, giant industry. And if you take a look at, there's an organization called SHRM. You could Google them. They will tell you that the cost to hire an employee, the average cost to hire an employee non-executive is $4,425, and that was in 21. In 2019, it was $4,120. So the number is increasing, and obviously we'd expect it to increase, in 22 also. And that's the cost to hire. That includes marketing, that includes scheduling and time and all these other things. So if you take a look at that cost, by the way, the cost to hire an executive on average is around $14,000+. But let's just assume for a moment the $4,425. So this great resignation, the people that are leaving are not just the factory workers. They're the guys that left a long time ago. We're trying to get those back. The people that are churning are the Java developers, the financial analysts, the attorneys, the healthcare workers. Those are the people that are churning. But let's still just use those numbers, still at the $4,425, and everyone on listening could take out their calculator. The average number of people hired in 2019 was 5.8 million people per month. So 5.8 million people per month were hired on average in 2019. Now that includes people leaving jobs and people getting jobs, right? It's both the hiring numbers themselves. The number that gets reported once a month is really the net new jobs, right? So we're not talking about net new, because the cost of hiring, what's the difference whether you're hiring for a new job or someone that left and you have to replace that job? It's still someone, you still got to put the butt in the seat, if you will. So if 6.7 million people were hired in November of 21, that's an additional $900,000. That was 900,000 people that were hired in November 21 versus the average in 2019. Times that by $4,425. And it's a very, very sizable number. Times that by 12, it reduced it a little bit just for seasonality. There's a lot of money that is going to be spent in 22 to hire. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing companies staff up on recruiters. Our numbers are growing. So we gave Q4 numbers at preliminary unaudited numbers. Our software numbers grew by 60%. Our top line revenue grew by over 40%. This is quarter over quarter growth. So we have AI software that helps find and identify candidates that raise their hands. We've got 150 million candidates in our profiling for AI sourcing, AI search and engagement tools. And then we have on-demand recruiters that help companies large and small fill those pipeline buckets and put people through the process. It's harder now, right? You're seeing ghosting. You're seeing people not show up to work.
Not even responding to, hey, are you going to come work for us?
That's right. So you're seeing that across the board. And once you eliminate the stigma of leaving a company quickly, if that's gone, what stops you? And by the way, think about when you were working in a company. There's the culture. You're coming in person. You have friends there. What if that's gone? What if there is no office? Right? There's nothing there. And this is from the candidate side. If there's nothing there, what's keeping you there? The paycheck, the work-life balance? What if somebody gave you a better work-life balance? So I think the priorities as individuals have just absolutely changed in the last 2 years. And you said it before. I think companies are catching up to those priorities.
And it's tough for them. Right? So for hiring managers in the audience who are having trouble finding candidates, how can they fill the pipeline?
So, let's use the restaurant. Let's use a restaurant and customers in a restaurant, right? You have a door and you put a sign out that says, come on in, half price lunch, whatever that is. You're getting traffic. You're getting a little bit of traffic. Putting another door right into your restaurant is not going to drive more traffic, right? You probably got to do something proactive that gets more and more people to come back, to come into your store. And what we're really seeing now is companies saying, all right, how do I get more flow, right? How do I drive more candidates? And we have tools that do it. There's some other Silicon Valley tools that are really effective in helping companies not just find the Java developer, but actually get them interested in the opportunity. And there's a lot of science around getting that done. And then there's also the meaningful conversation, right? You want to be spending more time in conversation rather than finding people. And that's usually what that's what we really do in a very successful fashion.
So how's it working for recruiter.com? How much trouble have you had finding workers?
We've been very lucky. Look, we also in Q4 saw, regrettable churn go up, people actually leaving. We're in a little bit of a more difficult situation because we're in a ridiculously hot industry, right? We are recruiter.com. So, our industry is, people picking off our recruiters. But, we've really created, what we really did is that we really, did what we actually recommend to companies is we really sat down with everyone in the company and really mapped out a progression plan for them. And that's what we're really recommending to people to do. Not just, hey, here's your bonus for the year, thanks again for coming, but hey, here's where I expect you to be in 3 months and 6 months and 9 months. Here's a retention bonus to stay through the year. I got to be able to show and demonstrate progression across the board. And that'd be my recommendation to your audience, hiring managers, anyone that's really managing people is, if rest assured they have lots of opportunities, and you don't want them to call you up and say, in the old days they would say, look, I got an offer, can you match the offer? Compensation is not the biggest thing anymore, right? So we used to solve problems. You and I grew up with the expression, there's nothing that money can't solve. The answer is that doesn't work anymore. Right, it just doesn't work anymore. And
it helps, but it's not the only thing, right?
It doesn't hurt. But we saw a survey that said that 25% of people would take a pay cut to go remote. Yeah. So there's that whole prioritization is just something that we're all struggling with. The fact that your priorities have changed from the way we used to do business is that's really more pronounced than what your priorities actually are, right? Because that's the difference here now. And the day and age of saying, well, Andy's not going to leave because he just signed and he's not going anywhere, we just gave him a bonus. That doesn't work anymore. So it's really, we really proactively have to be saying, how do I make sure that the people that want to stay are staying? How do we focus? And by the way, it's to our board of directors, it's one of our key metrics now. It's not just revenue growth, and it's not just profitability growth. It's also, what are we doing to build an A+ virtual organization?
Hey, one last question. We got about a minute left. Are you using content to help drive? I know we use word of mouth, and getting friends, but how about content? How are you using content at recruiter.com?
Yeah, absolutely. The way our AI software works, it's really two parts, right? There's the sourcing side of it, but let's go find all the folks that I need. If I'm looking for licensed therapists, let me build a list of all the licensed therapists that we have inside of our 150 million plus profiles. But then we actually market to those people through software. So a lot of content, a lot of creative content to get the candidate interested in raising their hand saying, yeah, I'm interested in learning more about that opportunity. So we take content very seriously. We have some incredibly skilled people in content because of your marketing, right? I have to market the same way I have to market to get you to come into my restaurant. Not, are you hungry? Come on in. Right, but what are you hungry for? What do you like to eat? How do you like to be served? What culture? What ambience are you looking for? That language that I need to deliver to that customer coming in. That's the same language I have to use to a candidate and getting them, enticing them about an opportunity.
Well said. Well, thank you so much, Evan Sohn, talking about the Great Resignation and how to recruit more and keep them. We're all going to need to know those secrets, and you can check out recruiter.com any day, anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There they are. All right. Thanks for joining us right here on All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett. Hey, with every interview, I like to talk about what I learned. And this week, I learned that job hopping isn't such a bad thing. For decades, employers would look at a resume, just as Evan said, and we would see that someone had jumped from one job to another and right away assume that they weren't the kind of workers for us. But today's economy and today's workers are going to be doing just that. You're going to see that all over the place. So you have to find the right kinds of workers that fit your culture. And by finding that right kind of worker, it makes for a better company. You're just going to take a little bit more time. As Evan said from recruiter.com, a lot more money. So get ready to saddle up and understand that we're in a whole new world with this great resignation.